My name is James Flaming, and I've been serving with Youth for Christ for 3 years at the Imagine South Vero campus. What led me to join Youth for Christ as a volunteer is a two-part answer, so bear with me on this one. The first and foremost, I wanted to be a blessing to Libby Sanderson and the Youth for Christ team as we minister the gospel to middle school students. But I also had an ulterior motive with that, but I think they both were to the glory of God. At the time I started working with Youth for Christ, I was a Bible teacher and chaplain at the school Master's Academy, and I had a heart and desire to see my high school students that I taught daily ministering to peers that were younger than them. I think there's power when a mature high school student ministers to a middle school student that doesn't know the Lord. I know that was impactful to me when I was a student, and I also got to do that as a high school student. So I wanted to provide an opportunity for my high school students to impact middle school students, and Youth for Christ was that vehicle. So one, I wanted to be part of Youth for Christ because I believe in the mission of Youth for Christ, but two, I wanted to provide an opportunity for my students to raise up disciples, and Youth for Christ was the solution to that. Volunteering for Campus Life Youth for Christ looks like many things, but the center theme to all of it is relationships. Whether we're doing fun games or small group time or a message or meeting one-on-one with a student outside of campus life, all of it is centered around relationships, building that connection with the student so that gospel-centered conversations can come naturally in the context of a relationship. I've seen God working through Youth for Christ in two primary ways. The first way is boots on the ground, campus life at Imagine South Vero. I've had the privilege of seeing sixth graders become eighth graders and seeing them draw closer to each other and into the relationship with the Lord. The second way I've seen God work is how Youth for Christ has been a great parachurch ministry to the local churches here in Vero Beach. A lot of the students that go to Youth for Christ South Vero, I personally get to see at my youth group, and it's so cool to be able to collaborate with Youth for Christ. As one, I work at a church. Being able to collaborate in that way is super cool, and I think God's hands are all over it. The thing I've enjoyed most about volunteering with Campus Life Youth for Christ is it gives me the opportunity to be on the mission field. Like I mentioned in the previous question, I work at a church, and while staying in the four walls of a church is awesome for discipleship, God has commanded that we be missional, if you read the Great Commission in the Gospels. So going and partnering with Youth for Christ on these school campuses gives me the opportunity to share the Great Commission to those who don't know Christ. The hardest part volunteering with Campus Life is having that consistent mindset. You know, we get busy with life, and sometimes we think, oh, there's other things I should be doing, but the students crave our consistency. They notice when we're not there. I remember there was times I've missed, and the students would come back later the next week and be like, why weren't you there? And I was kind of like shocked that they noticed that I wasn't there. So I'm like, all right, these students actually do care about my presence, not that it's about me or anything. But being consistent takes work and energy, but it is well worth it. A specific example of how God used me in a significant way, I feel, was with a certain student at Imagine South Vero. And this student wasn't even actually in my small group that I ministered to each week. He was in a different grade than the one I was ministering to. But apparently, just being around him enough during the game time and during the wrap-ups was enough for him to feel comfortable with me. I remember one morning, before work, I was doing some studying at Chick-fil-A here in Vero Beach and just minding my own business. And then this kid from Campus Life came running inside the Chick-fil-A doors just to say hi to me. He saw me from the drive-through line. He was like, I got to go say hi to James. And now I actually see this kid faithfully coming to our youth group associated with my church. So just the little things like that just shows how God is on the move with Campus Life. You should consider volunteering with Campus Life if you want to be a part of the Great Commission on this side of the timeline, if you will. Jesus gave that commission 2,000 years ago, but it's still relevant today. And obviously, Youth for Christ Campus Life isn't the only pathway to spreading the Great Commission, but it is a cool one. It's one that's already been established. So if you're looking for opportunities to evangelize, to be in relationship with students that don't know Christ, this is your opportunity. So that is why you should consider volunteering with Youth for Christ. One final thing I'd love to share concerning Youth for Christ is that if you play any role with this organization, whether you're a volunteer, you're on staff, or you're considering partnering with them, look for opportunities to get younger people invested into the programming of Youth for Christ. So my encouragement to high schoolers that are watching and are considering volunteering at a middle school campus, take up that opportunity. A phrase that's commonly said is God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. If you feel that tugging on your heart to be a part of Youth for Christ, follow it with obedience and in faith and allow God to do a work in your life, and you're going to be better off for it. So that's my challenge to you young people that are watching. Get involved. It says in 1 Timothy not to let anyone look down on you because you're young, but set an example for the believers. So set an example, get out of your comfort zone, and be a part of Youth for Christ.